So you might be wondering, how much did these two spend on this massive trip?
And that's what we're going to talk about right now. We have traveled to 8 South American countries in 5 months and we are ready to share our secrets.
In this video, we will break down exactly how much we spent, what we spent it on, and at the end of the video, we'll give you our grand, big, massive...
Maybe not.
No, not too bad. We'll give you our grand total at the end of the video. But first, we have some country-specific tips to help you along if you do decide to embark on a journey such as ours.
Beginning with money saving points for Brazil.
Use your card to pay in shops, restaurants, etc. because withdrawing cash from an ATM can be expensive in Brazil.
Like 10%, sometimes a lot.
A lot.
And another really strange tip, if you're paying for something, select that you have a credit card, even if your card is debit, otherwise it will not work. It took us a week to figure it out and then just credit was working, even though it's a debit card.
Strange.
And another tip, go easy on caipirinhas, even though they're so cheap, like 2 years. Like if you drink a lot, like...
I can still imagine the headache I got after having a few of those one night. Money saving points for Argentina.
When we'll tell you how much you spend in Argentina, you'll think, oh my god, like Blue Dollar rate helps a lot. So just buy your cash at Blue Dollar rate. We know it takes time for you to go every day, maybe not every day, every couple of days to Western Union, but like you have to do that. Like you will save so much. And we'll explain exactly how to do it now here in this video.
Earlier in the video, we talked about how you could pretty much double your money when you come to Argentina. So to do this, you have to use Western Union. Transfer money to Western Union for yourself to collect here at a Western Union in Argentina is an absolute must-do. If you go to an ATM with your regular bank card and try to take out, let's say for example, €1,000 worth, you will get maybe 180,000 Argentinian pesos. If you do the transfer through Western Union, you get almost double the exchange rate. So if you try to get €1,000 worth at Western Union, you'd be coming out with about 350,000 Argentinian pesos instead of the 180,000 pesos. It's 45% more, so that means that you could be going for a meal that might cost you €10, and because you bought the cash for 55% of that, it's only costing you €5.50. It's an absolute game changer in Argentina. If you didn't do that, you might think Argentina is one of the more expensive countries in South America, but doing this halves the price of everything and really makes your experience so much cheaper. One thing to keep in mind when doing the transfer is that it seems to be about €500 that will be your maximum daily limit, and even if you go to other rural parts of Argentina, we think that limit can be lower. In Buenos Aires not so much, but in other places in Argentina they will ask you for a copy of your passport itself. You get a number that you have to show them, and that's it. Boom, here's your cash. Have a good day. Leading on from that tip, when you're booking flights in Argentina and you want to pay with Argentinian pesos, use the cash that you just got with your Blue Dollar rate at Western Union to pay for them at the Argentinas Aerolíneas offices around the country. We booked our flights from Buenos Aires to Ushuaia in the office in Buenos Aires, and we saved a fortune by doing that.
About like €200 just for paying with cash. And the same for the hotels. We use less Airbnbs in Argentina, trying to book everything with booking.com because there you can pay with cash.
Cash in Argentina once you've used the Blue Dollar rate. Simple as that. You can get really good quality bread, cheese and ham in Argentina everywhere. Local bakeries, local cheese shops, local ham shops. Why not stock up on those and make breakfast and maybe even lunch every day for yourself, because the stuff there is really delicious.
Saved us a lot of money and time. Next up is money saving points for Uruguay.
This is an interesting one. In Uruguay, if you use your bank card to pay for restaurants or hotel stays, you will automatically receive an 18% tax rebate back onto your card a couple of hours, maybe a day later, but it comes back onto your card. So it's cheaper to use your card instead of paying with cash.
But only for hotels and restaurants.
Essentially, you're only paying 82% of your bill if you use your card, whereas if you use cash, obviously you can't get a tax rebate on cash, so no good. Next up, we have some money saving points for Chile, and trust us,
You need it.
You need these.
Yeah, it's the most expensive country in South America. And unfortunately, you get around 10 USD, 10 euros charge from withdrawing your cash.
So for this reason, we suggest using cambios. It's pretty much just those money exchange places. So just if you are coming from Europe or America, maybe bring some extra euro and exchange it at the cambios, because we saved some money doing that.
Maybe not at the airport, but in Santiago city center it worked really well for us. And bring cash, USD, or maybe euros even, to pay for tours, because you'll be taking tours in the Atacama, for example, and it will work out cheaper comparing to paying with Chilean pesos or with card.
Book Airbnbs with kitchens next to the bus stations where you're going, because Chile is very expensive and it helps to be able to cook, and it also helps not to have to take taxis to and from bus stations. So that would be our recommendation when booking accommodation in Chile.
Don't get us wrong, you still will be trying local food, but just don't do it for all your meals and you'll save a lot of money. And buy 6-liter bottles of water, because they tend to be the same price as the small ones.
If you're like us and you like alcohol, you will be able to find some Chilean wine in supermarkets. So instead of going out and buying beers or bottles of wine in restaurants, you can get some really cheap Chilean wine. Actually, the wine in Chile, a cheap bottle is cheaper than water, so why not? Don't spend idle days in Chile. Chile is a really beautiful country and there's so much to do there, but when you go there, especially if you're going on a part of a big trip like we did, go there, do what you have to do, see what you have to see, and get out of there, because if you're on a big trip, you will blow through your budget like you wouldn't believe.
And the next one, money saving points for Bolivia.
Bolivia is cheap. Bolivia is cheap. So I wouldn't worry too much about budgeting there, because you're pretty much budgeting by just going there. One thing we can say is that we found a really nice cheap local Bolivian wine called Kolberg, so that was cheap and tasty, and please don't judge us, we're not alcoholics. Money saving points for Ecuador.
Use Banco Internacional ATM, because you'll get no fees for withdrawing your cash.
US dollar is the official currency here, but we want to warn you not to carry anything over $20 bills. No 50s, no 100s, they just simply won't be accepted. Even using $20 to pay for something, you'll likely get a big double handful of coins in cash. They just don't like big notes at all.
And if after Ecuador you're heading to Chile, and in Chile we told you to bring USD, you can withdraw your cash in Ecuador and just exchange it in Chile. And lastly, money saving points for Colombia.
So a bit like Ecuador with Banco Internacional, in Colombia you can get free ATM withdrawals with a bank called Davivienda.
And another tip is don't drink as many mojitos as we did. They're cheap, but it still adds up.
So before we get into the overall cost of this trip, just know that for every type of traveler, the cost is going to be very different. You should also know we haven't included flights in or out of South America, because what was the point? Everybody is going to be flying in and out from a different place and to a different place, so we've left that out of the total cost. So we're going to break it down into some categories, and then at the end we'll put it all together and give you our total.
And beginning with accommodation, the most important part. And we spent 3,170 euros for 2 of us in the period of 5 months, which is only 21 euro per night on average.
As we were traveling as a couple, Airbnb was our main type of accommodation. We did stay in some cheap hotels, and once we stayed in a dorm room because accommodation in that area was just way too expensive. But as there were 2 of us, the cost was split, and Airbnb was 99% of the time the best choice for us.
So surprisingly, Brazil was the most expensive country for us, but it's also maybe because it was the beginning of our trip and we treated it a little bit like a holiday, but we spent on average 27 euros per night there.
Ecuador was dirt cheap. We spent 15 euro on average per night, and we were there for over a month.
And even though Chile is the most expensive country, at that point of our travels we already kind of knew what kind of accommodation we should aim for, and we ended up spending only 21 euro per night on average.
Our next category is food and alcohol. On food and alcohol, we spent 2,940 euro. That is an average of 20 euro per day for the 2 of us. This is a category that will definitely vary from traveler to traveler. When it came to drinking, believe it or not, we were quite disciplined and didn't do it that often at all, apart from the odd bottle of wine in Bolivia and Chile, and a mojito or two too many in Colombia. But apart from that, we were quite disciplined and didn't really drink that much over the past 5 months. We are definitely not the kind of travelers that would be out drinking in hostels, bars or nightclubs. If you are that kind of traveler and that's the kind of trip you're looking for, you can expect to probably double that number.
We also try to cook a lot, and believe it or not, it saves us not only money but time, because when you're going out for food, first you have to find a restaurant, then you're waiting on food, then you're walking back to your accommodation. So cooking really saved us time and money.
But at times the kitchens were hit and miss in the Airbnbs, so there were definitely times we had to eat out. To be completely honest, we weren't overly impressed with the food in South America, apart from maybe Argentina, so we were happy enough to cook our own simple meals whenever we could.
And also remember that you will be on the tours, or there will be one night when you don't have anything in your fridge. You don't think that if you'll be cooking, you will miss out on local experiences. So the next category is travel, and we spent 2,773 euros for 2 of us.
This includes trips from one place to another within South America. International flights to other countries, even in South America, can be pricey, especially if you're like us and you have to check in baggage. That can really add to your expenditure.
Like double.
A lot. We also found intercity bus journeys to be particularly expensive in the likes of Patagonia and Chile, so watch out for that. It's still a lot cheaper than flying. Next up is local transportation, for which we spent 634 euro.
This includes taxis, Ubers, all the buses, and a rental truck in the Atacama Desert. That's why it was a little bit more expensive than we thought it would be.
Next up is a chat about all the fun we had. So we're going to talk about how much all the activities we got up to in South America cost. On activities, we spent 1,451 euro. This includes anything from admission fees to national parks, biking on Death Road, white water rafting in Baños, and even feeding hummingbirds and the Uyuni Salt Flat Tour, etc, etc. We didn't hold back when it came to activities, and we really tried to squeeze in as much as possible, so we think that 1,400 euro is actually good for all the things we did.
So the next category is clothing, which is 142 euros. It's not like we were on a shopping spree or something, but you know, sometimes you just have to buy something on a local market.
Next up is health and hygiene, which is a sneaky little expense that you don't really take into consideration before you go. We spent 135 euro and 50 cents on health and hygiene. This includes all those annoying things you have to buy when traveling, like sun cream, moisturizers, period pads, toothpaste, shower gel, shampoo, contact solution, razors, not that I use that very often, all that kind of annoying stuff.
And there is one category that includes a lot of small things, and we spent on it 162 euros for the 2 of us. And so it includes some ATM fees, which we had to pay, but now you don't because you followed our advice. Some SIM cards and souvenirs, and you know, sometimes some small fees like bathroom in Bolivia, yeah, you have to pay for it.
So overall, we found the most expensive country to be Chile, without a doubt. Just an example of how expensive Chile is, we were only there for 12 days? 13 days. We spent 2,000 euro in Chile, and to compare that with Argentina, we were in Argentina for over a month and we only spent 2,000 euro there, so you can see the difference.
But it's also a blue dollar rate.
Yes, use our tips, use the blue dollar rate.
And the cheapest country is Ecuador. We loved it so much. We did pretty much everything there, and we spent there over a month as well, and we spent only 1,400 euros for the 2 of us, which is pretty good.
Grand total time, 5 months in South America, and if you put all of that together, we came to 11,408 euro between us, for the 2 of us, not each, which is exactly 5,704 euro each.
We had the time of our lives, one of the best experiences you'll ever have, and we personally think it's not that expensive. We aim to spend a bit more, and honestly, at the beginning of our trip, we were spending a little bit more than we expected, but then we need to get things together and start spending a bit less, and that's our total after we did it smart.
So what do you think when you were watching the video? Did you expect the number to be higher or lower, or do you think it's very expensive or quite cheap? You have to remember it's 5 months, so when you consider how much would you spend if you didn't go traveling in 5 months, eating and drinking, paying rent, paying for your car, paying for accommodation, all this kind of stuff. So when you think about it like that,
yeah. For example, we spend 600 euros per month on accommodation, and how much would you spend in Europe or the States?
be sure to let us know what you think in the comments, and don't be too mean, don't be judging us on our alcohol habits or any of that kind of stuff. But on a serious note, if you do decide that that is a good price and worth it, and you do decide to go to South America and have a trip like we did, we're sure you're going to have something to remember just like we did.